So Rob, you want to hear our story? The story about Caracas?
What's the story then?
It's the story about the global city and the global slum.
It's about the North and the South.
It's about wealth and poverty.
It's about anticipating and retrofitting.
It's about equal chances for citizens.
It's about friction zones.
It's about going into the city and taking action.
It's about social responsibility.
It's about building the informal city.
Gente que si quiere vivir, gente de barrio, el corazón de un mundo que late. Gente que lucha, no quieren que su esperanza la mate. Personas que combaten en la calle a diario, gente que si quiere vivir, gente de barrio, tú sabes. Pa' todos los barrios de Caracas y de Latinoamérica entera. ¡Wow! Váyalo mi gente. Gente de barrio, gente guerrera que lucha, bañados por el sudor de aquella noble lucha. Lucha que es constante de una idiosincrasia en donde el perseverante acorta las distancias que fueron marcadas a punta de constancia. Mi gente de barrio que no sufre de arrogancia, el trabajo una fragancia que a mi gente distingue. La lucha del guerrero, aquella que no se finge y no se puede fingir. Gente de barrio, gente dispuesta a combatir a su sueño, conseguir una mejor vida, vivir y no aceptarán morir. Su recuerdo está en el barrio, permanecerá en el barrio. Gente de barrio, el corazón de un mundo que late. Gente que lucha, no quiere que su esperanza la mate. Personas que combaten en la calle a diario. Gente que si quiere vivir. Gente de barrio, el corazón de un mundo que late. Gente que lucha, no quiere que su esperanza la mate. Personas que combaten en la calle a diario. Gente que si quiere vivir. Gente de barrio, para un petrol, gramos, velos, flores de Catia.
My name is Alfredo Brillenborg, and I'm an architect.
I'm Hubert Klumpner. I'm also an architect, and together we run the urban think tank in Caracas. Tell a story to it.
So this is more or less the plan of Caracas, of the valley of Caracas, with, let's say, it's 5 fingers. The informal city is about 60% of the city. And those are lodged principally in 2 sectors, at each end, Petare and Katia, or 23 de enero. However, in each finger, on each hill, you have immense informal settlements. And a few very small ones in the riverbeds, adjacent to the riverbeds, coming down to the city. In fact, building over those original riverbeds. Caracas is a city of valleys, bridges, and tunnels, holding 6 million inhabitants in greater regional metropolitan Caracas. If you think back to Caracas in the 1950s, it was the booming city of the future. There was only 1 million inhabitants. And of those 1 million inhabitants, only a fraction, a minimal fraction, was squatting the hillsides. However, after '58, the doors were opened up to migration from the neighboring countries of Colombia, Ecuador, Peru, Paraguay, and Chile, let's say, and that migration moved up into Venezuela and to Caracas, being the capital of all the wealth and the resources. They moved and they squatted the hillsides. Now, to this day, of that 6 million, 4 million are now squatting the hillsides of Caracas. So in any moment, if there was any thought that that could be eradicated, they're here to stay. So we have to take a particular interest in trying to see how we can incorporate those informal cities into an infrastructure that would work and that would be positive to the rest of the city. I was born in New York City when my father, escaping a previous dictatorship and government, took us to New York to be educated in, let's say, the North, with the American dream. Always with the idea in the back of our minds of returning to give that knowledge and wealth back to the city. Unfortunately, since 1986, when I arrived back in Caracas, I've had a continuous roller coaster ride, professional and personal roller coaster ride, enduring 2 coups d'etat, 3 subsequent devaluations of the currency, hyperinflation, double-digit hyperinflation, and at the same time witnessing a total breakdown in the city system. Under that circumstances, I felt I could no longer produce anything of value to the city if it did not have a social and a public component.
I was born in Salzburg, Austria, in a little Baroque town, just in the middle of it, more or less. Going to school there, I went to Camilo Sitte's first handcraft high school. I learned actually to be a bricklayer and a carpenter. My grandparents live in a 400-year-old house in the south of Bavaria, and I was always like interested, let's say, in a more practical approach, and going to the next step, studying in Columbia University, where I met Alfredo. Coming from a small town, going to bigger and bigger areas, urban areas, and choosing then later on to come with Alfredo to Caracas, Venezuela, one of these development world metropolises in the urban south. I believe I was taught lessons, important lessons.
Well, this is perhaps a good example to illustrate how settlements here spring up. In 1999 had been a natural catastrophe in the coast state, and for a couple of years there was a floating population. We will walk through this area here now to see it, to look at the early stage of such an invasion.
Canal informativo.
Sus niños están construyendo su casa. ¿Cómo es el proceso de construir una casa desde el principio, desde la tierra?
Principio, bueno, mientras que si hay plan, o sea, si llega a becerro, uno tiene que picar, botar tierra y después que viene siendo el plan. Ajá. Si no, si hay el plan, ya uno lo que viene es enterrando los palos y eso, y clavarle el material y ya, y el techo.
¿Y de dónde vienen los materiales? Uno tiene que conseguir
sí, comprarlo,
eso.
Por lo menos, bueno, las láminas de zinc, ya sabes, son de la ferretería.
El techo.
Sí, el techo y estas cosas, bueno, uno las consigue por ahí con la gente.
A veces reciclado.
Sí, esas cosas, sí.
¿Y con cuántas personas viven ustedes aquí?
Yo ahorita estoy aquí con mis 5 hijos. Yo soy sola, trabajo en un comedor de Chávez. Ajá. Tengo ya 2 años sola aquí, que mi esposo, bueno, nos dejamos. Y vivo yo sola aquí ahorita con mis hijos. Estoy echando para adelante con ellos, gracias a Dios.